We are thrilled to be joined by Nae'qwan Tomlin, Cavs forward, who just made, I won't say first start, but first start in a significant situation. Nae'Qwan, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. I want to talk about that start because you have the opportunity to start. You played really well in a spotlight game on ESPN. What were your emotions like heading into that, knowing that you had the opportunity to start in such a big matchup?
I was excited. I felt a lot of emotions. I didn't know until film during shoot around. We was talking about matchups, and then I just saw my initials there, and I was like, "Oh, starting today." But yeah, it was just a lot of emotions. I was excited.
What does it mean to you to get that kind of vote of confidence from the coaching staff? Because I think you have earned their trust this season. You've getting more and more opportunities lately. What does that vote of confidence mean to you?
It means a lot. I mean, it means that they trust me. They believe in me. And so I just feel like I just have to keep doing the right things that I've been showing them, to further along that trust.
What is the adjustment like? Going back to last year, watching you play with the Charge, you were in a much more prominent role, obviously, than coming in off the bench and helping out the Cavs here. What's the biggest adjustment for you going from that setting to playing within the rotation for the Cavs?
It's pretty much just doing whatever they need me to do, and that's coming in being a high motor guy, playing with a lot of energy. Getting a lot of deflections, stops, steals, blocks, whether anything that I can do on the defensive end, and then crash the offensive glass and get putbacks, make right plays. So basically, just doing whatever they need me to do to help win.
You mentioned crashing the offensive glass. I got to admit, one of my favorite plays of the last night was the missed three in the corner where you got the offensive rebound and dunked it. I know one of the reasons why it was my favorite play, though, is I feel like it's an encapsulation of your game. You don't allow mistakes or a missed shot to impact your motor or how you're playing. Can you walk me through that play? Because that was a lot of fun.
Um, I tried to make the corner three, hit the side of the backboard, which is that was crazy. That was
Yeah.
embarrassing. But you know, they always say follow your shot, and they happened to bounce right back towards me, and I had the lane. I made a little bang out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try not to let things like that, deteriorate, the rest of the game, and some guys, they think about the last play and it affects the next play. I try not to think about that and, continue to help my team in any way.
Yeah, that's definitely something that comes through when you're watching the game, right? Like it never seems to impact the next play, and
Mhm.
I think that that's really rare. I think that that's rare in general in the NBA. I think it's especially rare for a young player like yourself that's working your way into the rotation. Is that reinforced by the coaching staff, kind of empowering you to go out there and play your game when you do get those opportunities?
Yes, sir. The coaches, even my teammates, like they try to instill a lot of confidence in me. And, I didn't make my shots yesterday, but, they continued, Kenny always says, let it fly. Teammates always say, keep shooting, it's going to fall, I just appreciate them.
Yeah, so sometimes it feels like indecision is worse than like making the wrong decision or missing a shot. Like those things happen. They're part of the flow, but it just it seems so noteworthy that someone that's cracking the NBA rotation really for the first time in your career consistently to
Mhm.
go out there and not being afraid to make those mistakes.
Yes, sir.
Is there an area of your game or personal growth that you felt improved the most over this past off season? Was it the work you were putting into conditioning your body? Was there a skill aspect that you felt progressed the most over this past off season?
Um, I probably just have to say like my IQ. Everything else is pretty much like normal as far as like like my high motor and energy. I've always been a high motor and energy guy. A guy that always played hard, and like you was saying before with like my role being different when I was with the Charge coming into the Cavs. Now it's just like I was always one of those guys where like I've been the man on my team. I've been the guy that came off the bench. I've been the guy that didn't play. So I feel like all of those moments in time has helped me prepare for this moment, and just going into the game and just doing whatever the team needs me to do.
How much does practice help in that? Getting to work with the Cavs both last season and this season to help you be prepared for when you're called upon. Because I think people don't necessarily recognize how hard that is when you're not playing, and then all of a sudden you're playing 20 minutes in a game. That's not the easiest thing to do.
Just staying prepared. The coaching staff, they do a really good job. With the guys where we watch film all the time. Even when we're not playing, we watch film. We work out. We have our stay ready runs and stuff like that. So they do a really good job with keeping us engaged. It can be really hard not being engaged when you're not playing, and but they do a really good job with that.
You talked about, kind of your understanding of the game progressing over the offseason. And one thing I'd like to ask about it is what's kind of your process been in learning the rules of engagement for NBA defense? Because there seems to be so much nuance of learning when and how you can apply physicality on the defensive end with the way that the game's called today.
I'm still learning that, to be honest. There's so many things that I have to still continue to learn, especially on the defensive end. Because like you said, like you really don't know when you can be physical. I mean, well, I really don't know when you can be physical and when you cannot. But I'm still learning that though. Yeah.
Was there a moment for you where it felt like everything kind of clicked? Like just kind of looking back on the last couple of years where you kind of had that moment where you're like, I can make an NBA rotation. I can be part of an NBA team like the Cavs. Or has that confidence always been with you this whole time?
No, I can't say that confidence always been with me the whole time. I have to say probably like my last year of college, when I was at Memphis. I felt like that last year, I felt like, no, I can definitely make, an NBA roster and, be a rotational guy.
Does being on a team like the Cavs that not only has high expectations, but also has a lot of kind of success stories like yourself that undrafted players or guys that had to come up through the G League and that have now found prominent roles. Does that help you feel like you're in the right situation to further your career and reach the best version of yourself as a player?
100%. I definitely think so. Guys like Sam Merrill, Dean Wade, uh, Max Struss, who else? So, can't really think of anybody else that went through that. But
Craig,
just
Craig, Craig
Craig,
would be the other one.
Craig,
Yeah,
nice
I
for
I,
sure.
I was drawing a blank too there.
Yeah, Craig. But just to see guys like that and to see how they've came up, and the fact that the front office, they believe in those guys and see the potential in those guys and what those guys can be and how those guys can help the NBA team. I feel like it's starting to be me now. Yeah.
We've talked about how the coaching staff works to empower you and push you in the right direction. How much comes from the kind of the top end of the rotation, whether it be guys like Donovan or other leaders on this team?
Um, you know, those guys, those leaders, man. Don, he's a hell of a leader. He tries to build all of the guys with confidence, even if guys aren't having, the best shooting nights or anything. He doesn't let that, deteriorate them. He always tell them, just keep shooting. So I feel like to hear that from a superstar guy, it means a lot.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Is there an aspect of your game that you're focusing on improving in practice or in other settings where you feel like if I improve at this, it's going to be kind of my pathway to continue earning more minutes with this group?
I think my shooting right now, I feel like I'm in a shooting slump right now. So I just gotta, just keep shooting and having the confidence to keep shooting. And then also just, working on my defense, to better my defense to just be another threat, on both ends. Yeah.
Is there been a player that when you look at the NBA that you've kind of modeled your game after to some extent, or you look at them and say, I can bring what they're bringing to the table from an impact standpoint?
Um, there's nobody that I can say that like I'm modeling my game after right now, but some uh some similarities that I've heard before was like, like Mikal Bridges, like when he first got into the league, because he was one of those, two-way guys that, can guard on the defensive end and then be able to knock down shots on the offensive end. So I've heard things like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting comp, right? Like I think part of the reason when we listen to, listener feedback and stuff like that, conversations I
Yeah,
see, there's been a lot of excitement about what you bring to the table because when you have a lot of, star power, all-star guys on the team, having
yeah,
someone that goes out there and creates extra possessions, it just makes things feel unfair. Like I
yeah,
think back to those Cavs title teams where Tristan was buying extra possessions and stuff like that. It adds another element and makes them harder to play against. I want to end here. Where do you feel like your game is headed? What does the best version of Nae'qwan Tomlin look like?
no. Feel like I just have to just keep working, and once I'm able to start, knocking down shots and being able to, learn the game and learning, when to be physical, when not to, and feel like when all the puzzles start falling into the right places, then, I feel like I can be, like a matchup nightmare, something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
I, I like that. I like that a lot.
yeah.
One more question before we get you out of here. What's kind of been your kind of favorite moment so far in the NBA that you've had?
I think just learning from the guys on the team and the coaches, all of these guys been in different places, and from me to now coming into the league and just learning a lot from them, and I asked a lot of questions on things that guys did when they were first in the league up to now, talk to like all my vets and stuff like that. So I think just learning from just learning throughout this whole process.
So kind of having that community aspect
Yeah,
with your teammates.
yes, sir.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. I know I can speak for myself and I can speak for our listeners. We're very excited about what you've been able to do so far this season and hope to see more success in the future for you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.